Okay, got the reference. All right. All right. I think I'm the only person here monitoring the chat on the computer or whatever. But I'll just go ahead and explain myself, a little preamble for anybody perhaps tuning in later. Today I'm working on a Inktober prompt. We're using just the Pilot Prera fountain pen in the sketchbook. Working off of photo references that I posed and took myself. Today's prompt is from the Mobius-inspired list from the Mobius Productions Instagram page. The prompt today is meditative. So I kind of figured, well, you know, I took a picture of me kind of sitting in, I guess, lotus pose, or as best as I can do. But it's a nice seated, you know, upright back position. We can start from that pose or return to that pose towards the end before Shavasana or whatever. And then I got the halfway lift, you know, which is good, part of the sun salutation. And then for this one, it's kind of like was it the stork or whatever with the one leg lifted? But I wanted it to look like I was like floating with my head above water. So, you know, we'll see if that's what it looks like. And then I figured it might be fun to add like all these like little drippy kind of elements back here to kind of interrupt if I take this, you know, watery kind of element any further. It might be fun to interrupt that, you know, every so often. Hey, we got 8 people here. Very nice. Welcome, welcome. I guess you can rewind it if you want to hear my preamble and my explanation, or just ask me a question in the old chat there. I'll be popping back and forth to the live stream on my computer here, but appreciate y'all being here. I've heard that live streaming is good for attracting viewership, so we're going to start giving that a shot more consistently. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that. That's shop talk. Let's pull up our reference photo again. There it is. Oh, we got this knee. And the hips kind of dip a little bit, so we want to keep that in mind as we're drawing. But I love figure drawing. That's primarily any chance I get to draw a person, whether it be from photo reference or real life. That's usually the subject matter I enjoy most because there's a freeness to that. Oh, I'll re-explain. So I'm working from the Mobius inspired prompt list. Thanks for being here, Stevie, by the way, and I appreciate the question. But I'm working from the Mobius inspired prompt list. Today's prompt is meditative. Just using the Pilot Prera fountain pen, straight to the sketchbook, no underdrawing. This pose here is me seated in kind of a lotus pose. And then behind me, I have me rising up to what's called a halfway lift. You know, it's like, you know, you're just standing with your back straight, but you're bent over, and your eyes kind of gazing. I'm probably gazing way too far forward here. You're supposed to be gazing kind of a little bit in front of you on the ground. And then I haven't finished drawing this figure, but this would be my hand, the top of my head concealed by what should kind of mimic the look of water, you know, which I'm going to take all the way down to here and then have it be interrupted by these little drippies because I think that'd be fun little element. But right now I got to finish drawing this figure across, so the other arm will be extended, and then the other side of the torso will come down about there. You got shorts there, that comes up, and then the other leg should extend to about right here. Yeah, no problem. I love pointing these things out and explaining it. Part of what I love about drawing in pen is it can start to look like kind of an abstract mess, which is like, I don't know. There's things about that I like, but it's also like, you know, because I don't do an underdrawing with the fountain pen, like I like having those kind of exploratory lines on there. And then in the moment as you're drawing it, it's kind of, you got to choose which lines are worth putting down to explore. And then the more you do it, the more conservative you get and the better your judgment gets, as far as like looking at something and knowing almost precisely, not necessarily precisely, being able to feel that out. Yeah, you got one here, one here, one here, one here. You're getting 6 nipples. You're getting 2 for each figure. I'm finding this very fun using my body as a subject because it's very easy to take reference photos and not feel like I'm putting anybody in a compromising or weird situation. I'm not stealing anybody's, copyrighted work. So it's like there's a good thing about all this technology. All this stuff is like right in the if I drew another figure, be sure there would be more nipples though. I promise you that. This is going to be very funny watching the live stream later and not looking at the chat. Thanks. Yeah, this is I like this pen a lot. It's the Pilot Prera. It was only like 35 bucks. So as far as like fountain pens are concerned, pretty cheap. It comes with a piston, so it's refillable. You can put cartridges in there. And then this inkwell right here, which I am just about at the end of. I bought this like 2 years ago, and I'm just now getting to the end of it. This was like 35 bucks too. So the investment was well worth it. And it writes so much better and draws so much better than any sort of felt tipped. And if there was any disadvantage, it's that I use it way too much and I kind of don't want to use another pen. I don't know if I can switch out. I did accidentally have the nib fall off the other day. Let me see if I can get it to focus on that at all. Nah, it's not doing too well. But you might be able to switch it out. Like you can take this thing completely apart and clean it and put it all back together. It's like purely mechanical. I love it. I would highly recommend getting one. And they even sell like disposable fountain pens too. I've never used one. I was looking at a pack of colored fountain pens because I thought it would be pretty neat to do these drawings and maybe do certain sections in different colors and start to kind of introduce color composition into some of these sketches or whatever. And it might, make my sketchbook look nice when I page through it later on. But I don't know. I've just been like hyper obsessed with this fountain pen. It is, and man, I've seen fountain pens like hundreds of dollars. I have no idea if they're good to justify that or if it's just like, some of them will have like a gold nib and stuff like that. I have no clue. All I know is this was a very inexpensive fountain pen. And if you're curious, 35 bucks is not a lot of money to spend on something that, like, honestly, if it's a great sketching pen, even if you don't end up using it, because the one downside I will say with this ink is that if this gets wet or any sort of moisture gets to it, it will smear again, even long after it's dried. So there is a downside to it, but I did recently buy, I don't know where the jar, oh, here's the jar, this carbon ink or whatever. It's supposed to be completely indelible. I've seen people use watercolors over top of it, so fingers crossed. Because what I would ultimately like to do is start using this pen on like larger drawings that I could get in like exhibits and stuff. And because like I feel like I'm very comfortable in the sketchbook, but I think whatever magic happens here often does not translate to bigger paper with me. So I'm struggling with that, and I think it's just having to get the material that I prefer to work with, a little bit less fussy, I guess. I don't know if any of that makes any sense. No, you never let anybody use this. The most I've ever done is I've let somebody, and I'm just telling them about like, if I'm showing them my sketchbook or whatever, I usually have my pen on me because it's, again, like this is the easiest thing. Like this sketchbook is only, you can see this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 8 inches by, I don't know, what is it closed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So it's a small little sketchbook, small little pen, so, and then with the cap on, it's like that, cap off like that, but I like to put the cap on the back as like a nice counterweight. But I never let anybody hang on to this pen, or it doesn't leave my presence if I allow them to use it. I'm not against letting people like, test it. Be like, no, if you don't believe me, this thing is like ice skating across a piece of paper. Whereas like the felt tip pen, it feels like a cat trying to scratch at a scratch post or something. There's just so much resistance. You also don't have to like press down like nearly at all. Like I can kind of balance it in my hand and, you know, I'll show you. Well, all right, you got to press down a little bit, but I hold it this far up. You can even hold it even further up for, you know, you get real loose, just real loose. I love it. Man, I love how active this chat is. You guys rule. Yeah, I would never let your grandma use this pen, Stevie. Oh yeah, I mean it's weird to like come back to something like this after putting it down because I usually spend a couple of minutes looking at it, La La Land, in regards to your comment there. Which is why I like trying to like get as, you know, some of the Inktober ones I've had no choice to put them down, but usually I get locked into a groove. Like for this one, I wasn't comfortable live streaming until I essentially got most of this figure done and I'd figured out what I'm going to do with the rest of the page and extending this pattern down and then having it interrupted by the drips and stuff. So now that I more or less feel like I have a sense of direction for it, like it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if I had to, like if something came up and I had to stop live streaming and put this down for a little bit, I could easily pick back up, especially once I get this figure drawn and it'll be so much easier. Oh, you know what might be fun? Is what if I made a drip coming like in the foreground off of, we'll just put it there because I know this is going to come up to here and I don't have this other hand in my reference image, so we're just going to try to repeat. We're gonna do a clone tool on this hand, but with our brain in our hand. Because I don't have this hand in the reference image here. So I'm just thinking a mirror. It's gonna be opposite. Whatever you did, just make it look the other direction. And you come down and do that. And then you also have to keep in mind that this hand is also, I don't know if you can kind of see, but I kind of have a forced perspective when I was taking the shadows in there. I do comics actually. I have a comic for sale in my Shopify. There should be a link in my YouTube bio. It's called, I might even have it next to me. Give me a second. Yep, I got it right here. That's my comic, Gut and Ghost. It is about a pile of guts and a ghost. The style of the drawings is way different than this. Again, I'm still trying to get to a point where I can kind of marry the two together. And I think if I can transition to using this almost full time, that would be the move. But long story short, pile of guts, ghost, they're roommates. How am I going to do this here? I'll do it like this. Their light bulb goes out. They got to change it. You know, you can't really do it because the ghost can't grab the light bulb, and then the pile of guts, you know, just goes for it and cauterizes his mouth shut. So they got to go to the landlord, who is this pleasant fellow here, who calls himself Brain Lord, and he's got all these little minions that help him out. And he proceeds to tell them why their light is out, and we have this segue into a neighborhood with a three-legged mutant walking down the street who is in turn hit by a UFO. Don't look at this. I don't think YouTube wants me to have that on there. It's a little nudity. We'll just go past it. But yeah, it's, you know, it's a 9-page comic. I put some extra stuff in here. These are covers from when I would put them out as like little fold-out zines, and then a couple backup comics. This is kind of my version of Skibbity Toilets. This is from a Sonic Youth song called Incinerate. I just took the lyrics and decided to make a little 1-page comic from it. And this is a kind of a diary comic. I was looking at like a lot of Brandon Graham stuff, but it's just kind of a recurring thought I would have while making coffee. But hold on, I got a couple more things. I don't mean to do a commercial here, but since I got the audience and y'all are asking, why not? It'll all be 2 seconds. Should have some segue music or something. All right, I got it. I also got these ones aren't comics, but they are, you know, art books, I guess. If you're interested in more stuff like this, I do have like a what do you call it? A portrait portfolio of just pen and ink. You know, a little write-up here that I did. Let me sit back down so I can page through this properly for you. But yeah, it's just, you know, portraits I've done over the years. These first three were done with a dip pen and brush. That's my grandpa, Frank Zappa. And then this was a commission I did for a friend of mine. She wanted her dog drawn. So these were like 14 by 14, 12 by 8, and 12 by 14 and a half, just so you get an idea. So they're bigger drawings, which is why the brush and the pen makes sense. But I think it would be like really fun to just like really tediously do it in something like this. I say fun, but you know. And then these are all sourced from sketchbooks. You know, all from photographic reference. Some that I took, some that I found online. It's Bernie Wrightson. That was from Inktober a few years ago. I was using the kayfabe, cartoonist kayfabe prompt list. Alan Moore, Hunter Biden, he was in the news a lot when I was at work, so I would just like sit and draw pictures of him. That's my dad with a lobster on his head. I like this one because it's just very minimal. You know, you get some of that stuff and then just these suggestions of the lobster and then the horizon in the background. So I don't know, like it's definitely working towards something, I think. I just haven't quite gotten there. This is Robert and Aileen Crum, another one from the Kayfabe-tober prompt list a few years ago. This is a friend of mine. She got married last year, and I took a picture of her at the wedding reception. Basically, she got married in Savannah, and we just all hit the town. And, you know, just a nice candid photo of her talking to her friend, and drew it up for her and mailed it out as a nice little gift, and she has it hanging on her wall to this day. She says she loves it, and I don't think she's humoring me. Yeah, this was a fun one, too. I don't know, I love the fountain pen. I can't replicate this with any other pen. I've certainly tried. This was fun. So this is a mashup of two photos. This half here is me on a carousel. It's like the little mirror. I happened to snap a picture of myself in the mirror, and then I was taking a panorama shot on the, what do you call it? Ferris wheel with my daughter, and she moved during the panorama, and it made this kind of like, I don't know, this kind of like, it abstracted the photo in such a way so you get like this repetition of the eye, and then her hand went from here to here, went from here to here. That was a fun one to draw. That's just a self-portrait. I was looking in the mirror. Actually, I might have this one on my YouTube channel. It should be under, I think I have a portrait drawing playlist, but I just sat in my bathroom and looked in my mirror and drew this out in my sketchbook. I was getting ready for the Artfield, South Carolina portrait competition, which I did these two in. I got to round 2 of 3. I was the only one there that showed up with just Bristol board and a pen. Everybody else had like oil pastels and oil paints and lots of painting. Painters won ultimately, and it was like very, very good work too. So it's like really hard to show up to something with just that. People don't really, like, people see drawing as foundational, which it is. But I also think like guys like me just want to draw. I don't know what it is. Like, I've tried painting. I'm not super good at it. I'm okay at watercolors. This was a local musician, Twin Toasters. He's got some really great songs. And then you can commission a portrait for me. You can go to www.scoon.art and or just send me an email, jason@scoon.art. Yeah, that's the back. And then if you're more into comics, I have this art book here. It's a fanzine after Frank Miller, where I took the Dark Knight Triumphant pose and I crammed as many characters as I could into this pose. I drew this book and printed it within a month. So that's like almost, I think it's 16 drawings I got. So I got close to doing one a day, but you know, life gets in the way sometimes. So you gotta start and stop what we got. Started off with Decimator, you know, from Red Room. Master Blaster, Mad Max 3, you know. RoboCop. Sonic the Hedgehog. Tetsuo, this one was probably my favorite to do. I loved doing this arm. These were all done with a brush. Popeye, Donald Trump, and this is back when, this was right before Joe Biden dropped out of the race. So of course, right when I published this, he drops out, and I have not done a follow-up Kamala drawing. I need to maybe do like a baseball card chaser with this book or something. Megazord, Johnny Sacco and his flying robot, Ava 01 from Neon Genesis Evangelion. This is another one of my favorites. Concrete, Paul Chadwick, Street Angel, Gohan, Carrie Kelly Robin, and last but not least, Frank Miller. You got to do Frank Miller in the Dark Knight Triumphant pose to finish it off. He gets the black background. He's got to be distinct. And then here's my artist contact page. I drew me, of course. Why wouldn't I? And then on the very back of it, for fun, there's a blue figure. You draw your own and send it to me. And I got a little blog that I'm posting to. So far, I only have one submission on there. But I would love it if people, even if you don't buy this book, just draw one and send it to me in my email. Just make the subject like After Frank Miller blog or something. And I'll figure it out. I'll email you back and I'll put it up there. But yeah, that's pretty much the extent of my output so far. I got a couple of fold-out zines. One of them, I got a video of me working on the original art for on YouTube. But it's basically I'm redrawing the Dark Knight Returns. Yeah, dude, I love it's that was a fun one to stick Sonic in that pose. That I actually sold that drawing too to the musician in my my Facebook book. He saw it and he was like, "Oh my god, I have to have it." But yeah, that was a fun one. I have a list of like 50 different characters and people that I want to draw, and I was thinking about how it would be fun to do like. I'm from the United States, so it would be fun to do like, I don't know where you guys are from. I only say that because I'm on the internet and it's worldwide, blah, 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 blah. But to do like a book of presidents and then maybe do a little bit of research and talk about their different triumphs and failures during their terms. And I don't know, at least for me, it might be a nice little educational thing to do because I'll be honest with you. I know a little bit, but I don't know probably as much as I should. But I don't know. It seems like an infinitely exploitable kind of formula. And I would love to see other people's. North Carolina. All right. Hopefully you were safe from those hurricanes, man. That was pretty bad. I'm down here in South Carolina, in Columbia. What's a page scroll artist? What does that do? Is that like you sit in like an emperor's court and you get a long piece of parchment and you just like draw the emperor the sickest drawing he's ever seen and he doesn't chop off your head that day? I think I'd be pretty good at that. But he's just got to let me cook, He's got to expect a couple of false starts. Oh, like motion art. Man, I'm sorry to hear that, Stevie. That's hopefully they're all right. But it's yeah, I just don't know what to say about stuff like that. It's it's awful. And I don't know. Like I just struggle to. I don't want to sound like rude or dismissive or anything, but it's like, man, that's. Yeah, I'm glad they're doing better, man. It's you got to rebuild. I've been watching a lot of Mr. Rogers with I have a 2-year-old, and these like general reminders that like he's got this thing where when bad stuff happens, you gotta look for the helpers and stuff, and that's really all you can do, or you can be one of the helpers, if you're able to. I don't know. I just don't know what to do with the state of our world. That's why I bury myself in the sketchbook and draw pictures of me floating. Let's see if we can get these to come down here and maybe this one come up here. Huh. Interesting. I'll have to do some more research on that. I have been thinking about and this is very much in like the thought process stage, but like breaking out like some tracing paper and maybe shooting some footage of me like walking or something like that, and then trying to pick some keyframes and then just draw them like this and then try my best to overlay them, I guess, because it would give me some parameter to like work in, and I feel like I'm accurate enough with this pen. I should be able to do that, but it would also like be a little bit of a be a new thing. But I would be interested in doing something like that because I think not only the motion in the figure, but the motion in the changing of the lines that I put down. Because it's always, even if I redraw the same figure over and over again, like I don't do it exactly the same. You know, they might be similar. I might capture the essence of it, but there might be things that like I compensated for that I felt like I overlooked before. You know, no drawing is the same. It all exists in these like multiple series of moments where you're just kind of like, you know, again, at least with the method that I choose, you're just looking and reacting. And there's lots of things that go into that choice of reaction. Most of it out of your control, which is why I love the permanence of the pen. I like going in without an underdrawing. There's something that's just pure kind of expression. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling, but I'm glad you guys are here listening to me talk. That's very nice. Usually I'm just saying these things by myself. Thanks, man. You guys are too kind. I really appreciate that. I'm also on Instagram too. I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram, but I post. Well, lately I've been posting every day because of the Inktober stuff. It's just good for engagement or whatever. Although I might not have chosen the best list for that, but it's the one that I feel like I've been able to riff on the most. So I think that counts for something. But I got to change the position of the camera a little bit. Sorry, it's going to be a little bit strange here for a second, but I just need to be able to get access to this part of the page and brace it with my other hand. But now we're just doodling. Now this is the fun stuff. We're just adding direction, and maybe we go have this get darker the more it gets down, so that way these drips will be a little bit more pronounced, you know, as far as like a negative positive space thing. Thanks, man. Appreciate you, Lala. I try to post regularly on YouTube. I think I'm going to try to do the live thing more often. This is the second day in a row I've done a live, and yeah, I think this is more fruitful than just posting a video like once a week and a few shorts here and there. I like the interaction. And then even if I don't get interaction, it's still like, all right, it's another thing to throw out in the ether for people to either look at or not look at. But especially if I can get on a groove, I like sharing the process with people and stuff like that. And anybody I can convert to a fountain pen person, I'm all for. Oh yeah, Stevie. So this is from it's for an Inktober prompt. I'm using a list that's inspired by the French artist, French illustrator Mobius. Trying to think. He's I don't know. I haven't read a lot of his stuff. I've read probably the stuff that you could probably have access to still is like Adina, and that's probably the only thing in print. I don't really know, but I love his pen work and stuff. So I'm working off of his prompt list. The prompt today is meditative. So I decided I would draw myself in 3 figures here. So I got myself in kind of a lotus style pose here as best as I can do. And then this is a halfway lift. You basically are standing, bent over at the waist, back straight and kind of gazing forward. I'm probably gazing too far forward in this photo, so it's not a great example. And then this one here is almost like, I wanted it to basically look like I was floating in water and you were looking at the figure while like the camera's underwater and then the head is obscured by the, you know, the ripples of the water because it's above water. But I kind of did like a stork pose. So it's like arms out, one leg raised. And I just thought the idea of it, I do a lot of yoga. I kind of have to for like mobility or whatever. But I find that process to be very similar to this process here. And as far as drawing, it's a very meditative thing. And then it also has the benefit of like, I'm getting some cardio, a little bit of weight resistance in my own body weight as far as some of the poses go. And there's a lot of like starting and stopping and stuff. So it's a very, and then a lot of it too, it's like you're only focusing on your breath and the movement of whatever you need to be moving to transition to the next pose or whatever. So it's a very like simple thing, and it's like it really does like get me like in the zone. So I figured I'd just kind of do a drawing about that, I guess, if that makes any sense. But always go for weird too, and if you can like repeat things, I think repetition is always a good thing, and it makes kind of an interesting composition because you have it kind of wider down here, and then it skinnies up and then goes, like an hourglass kind of shape. Oh yeah, no worries. I always sneaky draw people. I'm always afraid that people are going to think I'm staring at them. But yeah, whenever, like every time I'm invited to like a market or something like that, I usually set up I'll draw you for 15 minutes if you could sit still for 15 minutes kind of thing. I do charge like $15, so I don't know if like that's why some people do it and some people don't, but I might not just have like good examples of what I'm capable of doing in 15 minutes with a fountain pen, just observation. So a lot of that might just be I'm bad at selling myself, but that's the goal for the next year. Or, I guess not next year because we're not at the end of the year yet, but I usually reassess things around October, and I think that'll be the, I don't know what to do about this here. I would like to, maybe we just keep doing drips, but I might need to get a better reference photo so I can get the rest of this knee in here. So that's all right. Well, let's just keep on with the top of this here. And just kind of darken some of this to kind of suggest we have something floating above water here, like it's catching some of the shadows or some of the light or something. No, I mean, I just like drawing people. The comic is, I guess it's a little horror inspired. I do like, things like David Lynch and David Cronenberg, the two Davids. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm drawn to it a little bit, and like no matter what I do, I guess there's always some element of like either body horror or surrealism, but I like to keep it grounded kind of in that like I like to use reference photos or like draw from life or whatever. Thank you for saying so, Stevie. That's really kind of you. Yeah, if you're feeling something and you would like some direction, I would say sign up for a yoga class, man. It's you can really get in touch with yourself, and it's a good way to take a break, do something good for yourself, and I don't know. I mean, that's just what I found. It's obviously not for everybody, and I wouldn't want to force it on somebody who wasn't interested or might not be capable. I also didn't think about that. That's kind of insensitive. But I don't know. Just personally, I found it to be beneficial. Some people might say it kind of might have broke my mind a little bit, but I think it probably needed a little bit of breaking. So what I was doing was definitely not sustainable. Yeah. No, the lotus pose is great. I tried to do it in such that like I had the camera really low, so you have this kind of upward perspective, and it kind of pulls the whole drawing up, and especially with this rising pose, because it feels like, I mean, it's called halfway lift, so it's not it demands that you go further kind of thing. So right now I'm gonna kind of do this again. I apologize if that's weird, but basically I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna start putting some contrast on these lines and just thickening them up in some spots and leaving them thin in others. So maybe we'll go from like dark to light and then transition to dark as we go further down. That might also, because then you would have like kind of that downward motion that goes counter to that upward motion, if that makes sense. I'm just making this all up as I go along. You kind of just start with something, and like, you know, you can see on this page, like I sketch these things out if I'm not sure I can do it or I'm not sure how it would look like. I didn't know what this would look like if I tried to make it look like if it was underwater. So, you know, that's what the sketchbook's for. You know, it's to explore. You don't have to have a good drawing on every single page. I never show anybody the entirety of my sketchbook, but you know, yeah, you just you know, you can kind of improvise these things and then just kind of go with whatever story you're kind of telling yourself about what you're drawing. And I think whatever story you have also just comes from experience and like, what do you think about all day, you know, or what are, like, for me it's like, all right, what are moments where it's like I feel, I don't know, like kind of centered with myself, but also like letting go a little bit. And that for me, that's just yoga. And like anytime I'm drawing, really, it's just getting something that's inside out on the page that I don't quite understand, but I feel like, I don't know, I have like kind of a better grasp at what this thing looks like, you know? And it's all multifaceted. It's like that old parable of all the monks feeling the elephant, you know? Um, you know, one monk has his hand on the trunk, so he's describing that. Another monk has his hand on the tusk, so he's describing that. And they can't agree on the nature of this thing that they're all touching, but they're all not wrong, you know? And then I think the thing that is kind of humbling is that, like, all these observations that you have in this kind of trance you put yourself in, they're not necessarily wrong, but it's impossible to coalesce them all. That's the struggle of being human, I think. It's the ultimate, like, why do bad things happen to good people kind of question, you know? Damn, I might have to go for that angle, is like make my thumbnails look like I'm trolling. I swear, I spend not like a ton of time on my thumbnails on for like my regular videos, and I'm not sure if they make a huge difference, but this one I was like, I'll just snap a quick picture of my pen on the sketchbook and we'll go from there. That's good. You guys are funny. Jack Black. All right, so we got somebody from Florence, South Carolina. I wonder, have I run into, who said they were from Florence? So I'm originally from Florida, so like I feel like that's close to Columbia. But then again, like everything in South Carolina is like an hour and a half to 2 hours away. You know, when you're in the middle. In Florida, it's like, you know, you might be an hour away to get to the next county. At least South Florida is like that. Oh, nice. So you're all over then, huh, Lala? Are you originally from LA? Is that like your hometown, or is La La Land just a internet handle? You're not wrong. The internet is kind of la la land, and unfortunately, the population has exploded. People forgot that people exist in real life. You know, got to get your hands on things. That's why I don't like to work digitally. It's good to have your hands on something. I'm in the minority with that. Like, it seems like digital painting and stuff is pretty much here to stay. Although it is interesting within the context of like everybody complaining about AI. It's like, a lot of you digital painters don't remember you were in the exact situation about 15 years ago. Curious. Oh yeah, we've all had embarrassing screen names. Yeah, I think at one point my internet AOL name was Dark Jedi. And then you put your, 1988, you put your birth year at the end as was the style at the time. I just thought you were really into who's that? Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone tap dancing. Is that what they do in that movie? They just tap dance or something and listen to John Coltrane. Nice, 88. Yeah, I've never seen it either. It's I've seen videos of them tap dancing and playing piano. That seems cool if you're into that sort of thing. I mean, I don't know. I just didn't see anything about it that really appealed to me. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Doesn't look like it's gonna make me want to cry or something, so I'm all right. It can scare me to death or make me want to cry, or both. That's the type of movies I like, or just something that's like really stupid. You know, I love stupid stuff. Yeah, I don't. I've never been like a musical person either. Like, I think the closest I've got is like you grow up with like Disney movies or whatever. You can catch me singing some of those now. Um, like what is that movie? Coco had a lot of really great songs in it, and what the heck was the other one that my kid likes? She's really into those Trolls movies. I hate those. Um, but yeah, I mean, like as like a casual, like I've been exposed to it, but I just don't. I just don't. I don't know. It's a little too much for me. It comes on so strong, and a lot of it's like really on the nose. Like I've had people tell me I'd probably like Jesus Christ Superstar. I'm not open to them. I just have never like aside from like maybe the South Park movie, I've never seen a musical that I've like been like, yeah, I really enjoyed that. I would watch that again, or buy the soundtrack or something. Just really not my type of thing. The Repo Man musical. I don't. Oh, is that one of the writer's strike things that they put out? Um, I think I was working at Barnes and Noble when that came out. I remember looking at the DVD cover. Please don't. Why shouldn't I watch Jesus Christ Superstar? Make the case against it for me. I'd love to. I've had a few people tell me I should. Now you're coming in as my subconscious saying, "Don't watch it. Don't do it." And I would love to know why. Articulate it so my subconscious can have something to latch onto when I resort to being contrarian. I feel like I should watch Jesus Christ Superstar and then immediately follow it up with Martin Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ. So that way I feel like you get both sides of Broadway, you know? You get the musical stuff in Jesus Christ Superstar, and then you get everybody talking like they're from Brooklyn in a movie about biblical times. Which I get, you know what? I mean, I might not be I'm sure I'm not the first to say this. I'm just realizing, like, that's a lot of, like, doesn't he kind of explore that in his other, like, gangster movies? Like, there's a heavy, like, Roman, Italian, Jewish thing. I mean, I don't want to get into it on a live stream because that seems like a touchy subject, but I feel like he explores that, like, a lot, like the way the different like ethnic groups in those neighborhoods or whatever back then kind of either had to work together or butted heads with each other. Renting body. That sounds like a David Cronenberg movie. Oh, that sounds insane. Okay, so it's just kind of like a sacrilegious thing. Yeah, people said the same thing about Scorsese's movie too. It was like too much of a human portrait of Christ. I mean, I grew up like going to church and stuff. I don't really do it so much now, but like I don't know, I wouldn't consider myself like an atheist or anything. I'm definitely agnostic about the whole thing. But my foundation for like thinking about that sort of stuff is like strictly Christian. Um, I can understand why like the rock and roll aspect would be like, all right, now this is a little bit too. You have a little bit of sense of decorum about this, you know. I could get that. Repo Man does sound fun, actually. I might have to look that one up. It sounds like it'd be a Cronenberg movie, but you're saying it's a musical? Cronenberg had a similar movie with organs and organ harvesting recently. I think it went right to Hulu. What was it called? Crimes of the Future. That was an odd movie. I want to watch it again, but it just made me feel it's one of his movies that make me feel like I need a shower afterwards. Oh, for sure. I mean, it might have been something I probably would have enjoyed in high school or something, maybe, but I don't know. I already don't really like musicals that much, so I've never really sought it out. I can understand that though. That makes sense to me. Scanner Darkly's good. I like that movie. I saw that one in theaters. That was actually a really good movie. I like that the rotoscoping choice. You know, some people saw it as like, all right, why bother doing that? But it worked really well, I think, with the movie. I don't know that you could have done that movie not like that, other than just doing it a full on animation. And I think that rotoscoping was a perfect halfway point. He's got a couple other movies, Linklater. Well, I guess just one other one, but I always feel like the he's got two of them that kind of lead into Scanner Darkly a little bit. Not necessarily as far as like story or anything, but like in technique and like the nature of the film or whatever. He's got another one called Waking Life, where it's just like the camera just kind of follows people until it picks up on another, like it'll follow this one guy for a little bit and then he'll go and have a conversation with somebody and then now you're following that person. But the whole thing is like rotoscoped, like Scanned Darkly, so it has that really surrealistic, like cartoony look, and like a guy will be driving his car and it just turns into a boat and flies away. Alex Jones is in it, actually. This is back because Richard Linklater's an Austin guy, an Austin, Texas guy, much like Alex Jones. And this was done back in the mid 90s when Alex Jones was just kind of considered a just like a local rabble rouser. You know, he didn't quite have the connotations that he does today. But he's in that movie driving around in his car yelling in a loudspeaker. It's actually really funny, like going back to it now with that context. But yeah, if you can get access to Waking Life, that's a interesting movie. It's not like quite as straightforward as like a regular movie, but it is it's an interesting thing to watch, and it's, you know, the dialogue is mostly just like people talking about like, you know, just you know, it's just like dorm room philosophy stuff. But I remember enjoying it. It's been a few years since I've seen it, so if you watch it and you don't like it, feel free to come back here and tell me. I don't know, you might want to rewatch that and rethink your opinion on this. It's been, God, I probably haven't seen that movie since like college. But his other one, Slacker, is kind of the same thing as Waking Life, just without the rotoscoping, and you're just following like a guy like who's a slacker, and he just meets weirdos. It's almost like Clerks, but without any of the humor. I could never make it all the way through Slacker. I just got bored and fell asleep, or would just turn it off the few times I've tried. And if that happens, I just decide it's not really for me. Yeah, more or less like Richard Linklater. He's made a few movies I really like. Let's see what this looks like so far. Yeah, I think that's adding a proper amount of depth to this. I mean, you know, I don't know if it's cultured as it's so much as I just like shirked all of my responsibilities that I should have been doing and just chose to like watch movies instead of like, you know, I don't know. I've spent a lot of time just like, I've had a lot of people tell me I'm wasting my time, and I probably have, but I don't know. I try to make something valuable of it. I just enjoy them, that's all. And then, you know, I see something I like, and I'm like, oh man, like who made this? Why do I like this? And then I'll try to seek out other things, and you know, and then eventually you're like, oh yeah, I like David Cronenberg, or I like David Lynch, or whatever. It's, you know, I just am into them. That's all. There's people that are way more into it than I am, and they know a lot more about it. But I just don't have the time these days to dedicate to it. It's the same thing with comic books too. Like I have a few things that I really like, but like, you know, if you try to talk to comic book people about comics, even if it's just about making comics, you're just bombarded with like, oh, have you read this? It's like this. Oh, and you have to do it. And I was like, I don't, dude, I have no frame of reference for like half of what anybody is saying. I go through spurts of buying comics and reading comics, and you know, there's just some things you miss. And heading out, Stevie. Thanks for coming by, man. Stay safe. Oh yeah, I know the feeling. Enjoy the 2-year-old. I got one myself. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get it out there. This year, like I was saying, I need to get into more art markets, and I'm looking at zine fests and like comic cons, because I think I get the best, especially at zine fests, I get the best feedback and results from going to stuff like that, because it's a pretty open thing, and I like the zine format. It's a great way to kind of curate your own work for people, get your stuff out there, and then you know, I mean, you're not going to make a bunch of money on it. I'm not making really any money on it, but I have paid for the printing of at least like a couple of these just from selling them, and sold a few pieces of art based on you know, my stuff being out there and the ways that I put it out. And I've also even gotten like a gig. I had to do a gig back in August. We had Man U and, oh, who was it? Liverpool. Yeah, who was it? Like only the biggest soccer rivals in the world. They were playing at the Williams-Brice Stadium here in Columbia, and I had to go to the tailgating event and basically do a live drawing of what was going on there. So I didn't have any frame of reference for what I was doing, but by God, I did the drawing and delivered it on time, and it was a nice paid gig. So Yeah, the idea is to just keep, like you said, just hammering at that and just finding different avenues to get my work out. And it's exhausting, but you know, I've yet to have people be super repelled by what I do. Some people don't really like the comic, and that's understandable. It is like really freaking weird. But I also enjoy people not liking the comic because they're usually too polite to try to escape the spider's web once they've initiated me talking about it. They'll just let me finish. Yeah, I mean, I think as long as I'm consistent and just keep putting it out there, and then I think the key is like you got to do the internet stuff, but like you also like have to go out in your like city and your local community because that's really if you form those relationships with people, you never know how far that'll reach. I mean, like I said, the few people I've gotten in touch with, like it got me a job or a gig with the city of Columbia, which was nice. So it's just hoping to build on that. It's a little slow going, but I don't know. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to draw, and it'd be nice to at least make it pay for itself. If not make a living at it, that would be ideal. But we'll see. I'm definitely going to keep on drawing, though. That's not out of the question. I think I kind of have to at this point. I'd go insane if I don't. Yeah, but I mean they are, but comics are in like a weird spot right now, especially American comics. Because if you look at Japan, I guess everybody says, "Oh, look at Japan," but like they have readership for their manga that's like it's record breaking. The sales they're getting, it's crazy. It's really weird to me how we don't, our comics over here. It's like now it has the connotation that it's a movie, and I don't know. I haven't read like other than that Absolute Batman that came out and a few of the kind of really limited miniseries they put out through like the Black Label imprint or whatever that is. I have not read like a single mainstream like comic book in a long time. Um, so I don't know. And then even then, it's like I don't even know if I would be interested in like if somebody was like, "Oh, here's a Batman book, do whatever you want." I don't know. I don't have anything to say. I don't know that I would even be interested in that. Um, and I think a lot of that is probably just due to like, I'm interested in comics, but I'm primarily more interested in drawing and the drawing process. And what attracts me to comic books is the narrative aspect of it. And there's a lot of people that you can find that really push that medium, which I think is fun. And of course, sometimes you got to attach an IP to it, which is like whatever. But I don't know. It seems like such a weird box to kind of put yourself in. I don't know. Yeah, people love murals. I feel like the mural market is like oversaturated though. Like we have like I could think of like 10 people or like LLCs just in Columbia alone that do murals, man. Everybody goes right to murals and I'm like I don't know, I used to be a house painter. So I don't really do that anymore. I got injured, so I'm trying to stay away from something like that. I mean, I could do a little bit of I could do it if I wanted to, but I also don't want to make going back to like having to lug a bunch of stuff everywhere and hurting my back and I just don't want to re-injure myself. So I'm trying to be careful and I'm trying to go with what I know. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, we definitely don't really have a reader culture in America. I don't think that's a race thing at all. It's a culture thing. I mean, um, but I think the cool thing with comics, like I've been just been slamming comics the whole time. But I think the cool thing with comics is that like I really do think that people in this country, um, if given the choice, would love to unplug from the constantly. Oh, you got to watch this show. You got to watch this show. Let's binge. It's so exhausting, and I don't think people realize how exhausting that is until you unplug from it. But it just depletes your brain. You're full, like you got to be full up at some point, right? And I think comics is like a perfect transition to like Well, you know, it's got pictures, it's got colors, it's got cool compositions. It might even have like a character you like or whatever that's in the shows or whatever it is. I don't know. But it just seems like an easier way to step back into like literacy rather than picking up a full book because I mean, I'll admit I'm trying to read and I find it so hard to concentrate. I could do spurts where like, all right, I've read 30 pages. This is great for me. And then I'll have times where I'll reread the same page over and over for like 15 minutes. I'm like, I don't know why I'm even trying to do this. Um, but I don't know. Yeah, they can be. But yeah, I don't know. I think the comics are a fun way to curate yourself, tell a little narrative. It's a fun way to collaborate with people. Because like it is something you can do on your own, like as opposed to like making a movie or something. You can literally sit at your kitchen table every night and put in a few hours and have a comic by the end of the year that you've completely drawn. And, you know, anybody can do it. You just got to like put the time in, hone your craft a little bit, and just be comfortable with putting whatever you want to put out there. Which is, I think, is the great appeal to it. Like, and then, like, again, the other half of like getting people into reading comics is like, as opposed to watching movies and being like, boy, I wish I could make movies. And then you can't because you don't live in Hollywood. You don't have the connections. You can't, you know, get 100 people together and you don't have the fun. You know, it's a very difficult thing to pull off. Not that it's impossible, but to me, it just seems easier just to, all you need is paper and pencil and pen. Um, Thanks, man. I appreciate it. If you want one, I have all three of these books on my Shopify. It should have a link in the YouTube profile. If it's not on there, it links to my Instagram, which links to the Shopify. Um, but yeah, I got them for sale. They're only $5 a piece. I always include. I have a little fold-out zine that I always include with every single order. You know, I for the Gut and Ghost, I always draw on the back too, and sign it and everything. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's worth the five. And I've had people tell me they like it. Um, but the best value would just to be buy all three because then you only got to pay the shipping once and you get all three books. And I don't know, maybe I'll sketch something extra if somebody buys all three. Or I'll just clip something out of the sketchbook and include it. Maybe I'll start doing that. People might be more incentivized to buy it if I'm like, yeah, I'm clipping this stuff out of the sketchbook. It's going in orders this week if you want to purchase. But I also feel bad about cannibalizing the sketchbook. But I feel like I got to offer something novel, you know? Yeah, I mean, it's time consuming, but I think it's time well worth spent because, I mean, again, if you're sitting and concentrating on any kind of task for any bit of time, I mean, I think that's kind of good for your brain, you know? Having some sort of set goal here and then just kind of going for it. Man, I am smearing the heck out of some of this here. That's the moisture in my hand. Let me get a piece of tracing paper so I don't ruin the bottom half of this drawing, but that is smearing. Be right back. Oh, did I get a message on here? Nope. Okay. I was waiting for somebody to message me. I got to drop off a drawing for a gallery thing. I'm going to also use the bathroom. I'll be right back. Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? Oh yeah, no, never throw stuff like that away. You should be proud of stuff you work on, and then make another thing. And whatever you're holding deep down inside that you're not proud of about that piece, that's when it's time to examine it in the next piece. And that's how improvement happens. It's all practice. It's all fun, and I think the process should be enjoyed at every step, even when it's frustrating and time-consuming. Yeah, you put a little bit of tracing paper down. Get your moist hand all over your artwork and smear it. I always forget to do that, and I smear a ton of drawings. And that's all right. Sometimes it's that's why we're working in the sketchbook. You work these things out, and then when I change ink and get into this more indelible ink, I will be keeping that in mind. Well, ideally, that indelible ink shouldn't smear, actually. Because I'm smearing stuff that I've already drawn. It should be well dried. All right. Oh man, no worries, dudes. Thanks for stopping by. Get some take care. Drive safe, dude. Thanks for I appreciate you. Thanks so much, Lala. I appreciate you, man. Drive safe, dude. I'll get those mailed out to you. Just put the order in. I got you. As I was walking down the street one day, la na 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 na. La, 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 wow, 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 wow. I said, does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care about time? As I was walking down the street one day, do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I said, do-do. All right, well, I might just stop it here. That's a good 71 minutes. Let's go ahead and take a big look at what we've done so far. So we got the rest of this figure in here. We got the background started. We got the drips going. Yeah, so anybody who is watching, thank you so much. Anybody in the chat, thank you so much. If you want to see this final drawing, follow me on Instagram at scoon.art. That would be at SCHOON.ART. Find me on there. Links in the bio. I'll put the link in the description. Really appreciate y'all stopping by.